Hi, this is Joe Dunleavy from Endava, and I'm joined today by my colleagues Richard Pugh and Eoin Woods, and we're going to talk about the different types of AI, but more specifically how we apply them to help our clients and businesses deliver more value. Eoin, maybe to you first, if you could speak a little bit about how you feel that generative AI is helping to drive the adoption of other areas of artificial intelligence.
This is the really interesting thing. AI has been around for a really long time, and we've got a lot of really proven established techniques in that field that aren't generative AI. Yet, generative AI has so excited people that now they just want to have a conversation about AI. So actually it's terrific for all the other techniques because people want to start a conversation about ChatGPT, and actually they might end a conversation about classifiers. So it's a huge opportunity for everyone, both people working in the AI field and people who can really benefit from applying AI to their problems.
Yeah, I think you've seen a lot of the media coverage around generative AI has meant that maybe AI has come maybe more to the top of the conversation than it has been in the past.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, completely. I was at Arthur C. Clarke said something about any sufficiently advanced technologies indistinguishable from magic or something like that. So I think that right now these are great reminders. Generative AI is a great reminder that the world is changing and the opportunities and threats to business are coming along so quickly. And so I think it's great because it's another reason to have the conversation about what is your organization going to look like in 3-5 years time, right? So I think it's great from that perspective as well as the capabilities itself it brings, right?
We mentioned about generative AI, but what do you think, just broadly from an artificial intelligence, what do you think are some of the benefits or some of the interest that companies should have in this space? I mean, I don't know if you want to open up with that.
Yeah. I think clearly we're in the height of the hype bubble around generative AI, and that brings a conversation about AI in general as well. And I think that that's really exciting, but it's also a bit of a challenge because for me, it's a bit like the big data era, that the language kind of can get in the way of the right conversation, right? So you've got all these business leaders who are under pressure from shareholders and so on to say, hey, what are you doing about data or AI? And the challenge that you have is that the world of data and AI from a buzzwords perspective is so opaque, right? So these business leaders struggle to have the right conversation. So for me, when you boil AI down, AI is a broad capability that allows us to build leaner, smarter, more engaging, more relevant organizations. That's basically what it's about, right? So do things faster, do it smarter, talk to customers a lot better, and so on. And I think that for me, I think a big challenge right now is how do we get through the kind of the words to get to a point where we know what the right use case is, or where to start, or how it'll enable our business, or potentially how it becomes a threat for our business, right? So I think those are the conversations that need to happen right now.
Yeah, Eoin, what's your take on that as well?
Yeah, very similar. I think the most important thing is that we start with what problems are we trying to solve, what opportunities does the fact that we don't have to code everything into the computer, we can base it on patterns, models, and inference. What does that allow us to do we couldn't do before? Right. And just as importantly, what is it going to allow our competition to do, possibly faster than we can today? Yeah,
spot on. I think no one's ever added value by walking around an organization with an AI hammer hitting stuff with it, right? For me, I think that this era's let's just build a chatbot is like the old era's kind of like let's just build a data lake, and I think that's where I think Eoin's spot on. These capabilities are fantastic, but it's got to have the kind of so what moment, right? How does that allow us to build a new type of business?
Yeah, and I think it goes back to even what's the problem we're trying to solve for in the first instance, rather than just, to your point, take out the AI hammer and start driving those nails.
Absolutely, yeah. Biggest pitfall in this area for me is you brilliantly solve the wrong problem. And I think it's happening all over, all of the place.
I think it's a great way of phrasing it. Different industries then, from an artificial intelligence perspective, do we see AI as something has equal opportunities in all industries? Are there certain industries that maybe are going to get more opportunity out of it? Eoin, I don't know if you want to take that up from a conversation perspective.
Sure. Well, if you think what it allows us to do, it allows us to analyze information, spot patterns, it allows us to synthesize new information, it allows us to understand the information in our environment more deeply. And if you think about that, many industries have some variant on that problem. So, I mean, industries we work with, the wealth management industry, at the other end, something like logistics, banking, of course, the media industry, healthcare. They've all got those kind of problems where they've got information workers who need to understand, find information, analyze it, synthesize it to create value. And AI can help with all of that across all of those industries.
Similar views yourself, Richard?
Completely. Yeah, I think that we've seen some innovation triggers in the past that are really focused on particular sectors, particular areas. You think about robotics in, kind of manufacturing, for example, right? But I think one of the things that's really stark about the AI movement, if it's a movement, I'm not quite sure, but is just the breadth of applicability, right? I mean, if we boil it down to those things, right, becoming leaner, smarter, etc. If we can automate really intelligent processes that are currently very human-centric, that's cross-cutting, right? If we can improve our decision-making, I mean, an insurer would be, quite happy to make really great decisions about risk and price in the same way that a retailer would be happy. So I think it's really cross-cutting, which is a really interesting kind of facet of this new capability.
And in terms of how do you evaluate or select the right AI? Because it's such a broad topic, right? There's many different technologies out there. Generative AI is added to that conversation. So if you're not quite sure where to start, what would be the criteria? What would you use as a guidepost for where would you start with AI?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think this is the challenge, right? Particularly with generative AI, right? Because which use case do you start with when the use cases is like everything, essentially, right? Where do you start? And I think that, to Owen's point, that's where you have to talk about what type of organization you want to be, and therefore, feed that into a conversation about use cases. So for me, it's about engaging with the business for a start. And I don't think that's going to the business and say, how do you want to use AI? Because that's a very unfair question, right? I think you have to create the language and the environment in which you can have a conversation about how AI might help their part of the organization, right? So I think that kind of helps you kind of get the conversation started. But then what you crucially need to do is to think ahead of time about how you're going to assess different use cases, right? So in terms of impact, are the particular metrics you want to drive? Are there particular, do you want something very measurable or very kind of like intangible, what you want to do? Do you want something aligned to that big ERP investment you just did? What's good look like? And then also, how do you assess feasibility almost, right? So actually, do you have the data is a big one, right? Is the cultural change possible, right? If you land this thing, can you enact the change? Are we talking about something right on the bleeding edge of AI that's going to work every Wednesday when there's a full moon? Or are we talking about something that's been done and we can implement, right? So I think those things allow you to kind of get a good definition of what great looks like. And then once you get into the kind of like that sweet shop moment of all the things you could do with AI using that language, then at least you've got a way of starting to analyze and prioritize these things. So there's got to be a really good structured process to find the right things, and you've got to bring the business with you and help them have those conversations, right? Otherwise, what you do is you go, here's 10 use cases, and it's like throwing darts at a dartboard, right? Chatbots sound cool, let's do that. Oh, I read this thing that company X did Y. You've got to engage a conversation, to your point, about what you want to do, where do you want to be, what are the threats, what are the opportunities for your organization, right?
No, all very, very good points. Eoin, just to kind of finish up, Richard touched upon it, some of the foundations of setting up AI in an organization. What do you feel from a culture or from an organizational perspective are some of the things that you think are important to keep in mind?
Some of the things Richard was talking about actually is that you've got to be an organization that knows what it wants to be. Do you know what you're trying to achieve, and then think about AI after that. You're going to have to be an organization that's open to change. I mean, it's going to change internally, it may change how it deals with the world. And the other thing is learn from our past IT implementations. Make sure that you're finding the value and you're delivering small things all the time, because we've got to maximize the learning loop. And none of us has all the answers on this stuff, so be a learning organization, quite a humble organization that is going to explore the space, learn as it goes, and that's probably going to maximize the chance of success.
Yeah, no, I think that some really great points there. I mean, we've been working with clients in AI for quite a number of years, and I think it's an exciting time. Generative AI has brought a lot of the conversation to the table, but I think it's critical that, some of the things you mentioned, what are the foundation stones that need to be in your organization? What is it where we want to start and why, and put the thought into that, because it's a very powerful technology when it's put to good use, but I think it's the important element is to know what you want to use it for in the first instance. Yeah. Thank you very much, guys, for joining me today, Richard and Eoin, and thanks again.